Good evening, boys and girls. This is Miss Alonso, and it's Monday night, so it's time for another bedtime story. I'm not sure if you can tell who I'm dressed up as tonight, but I'm dressed up as the character of Little Red Riding Hood. This story was a story that my mother read to me when I was a little girl, and this story also helped bring up the conversation of making sure not to talk to strangers and how it's important to listen to your mother and father because their number one job is to protect you. So this was a story from my childhood that I love that throughout the years, many different versions of the story have been told. And usually the character, the big bad wolf, is our enemy in the story as well. In some of the versions, that's a little bit different. Well, tonight's story is one of my favorite versions of Little Red Riding Hood that I think boys and girls are going to love. And it's got a little twist to it that's a little different. You're also going to hear a lot of rhyming words in the story too, but I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Tonight's version of Little Red Riding Hood is called Ninja Red Riding Hood. Once upon a ninja-filled time, a wolf couldn't catch any prey. He kept getting licked by the dinner he picked and was growing more ticked by the day. His belly was aching for bacon. "I'm wasting away," he complained. To huff and to puff was no longer enough, so he snuck into a school to be trained. He practiced his katas for hours and mastered the whirlwind and wheel. He jackknifed and flipped and at last felt equipped to once again catch a good meal. Drooling with anticipation, he set off in search for some meat. While deep in the wood, he met Riding Hood. "I'm bringing my grandma a treat." The wolf licked his chops when he saw her and hastily thought up a plan. "There are blossoms that way. You can pick a bouquet to give your little old gran." Then the wolf took a shortcut to Grandma's where he thought he'd find her in bed. But Granny was gone, so he put on her robe and eagerly waited for Red. Thank goodness Grandma wasn't there, but I hope Little Red Riding Hood finds out before it's too late. Soon after he heard someone knocking, he called out, "My dear, come on in. Oh, don't you look good in your lovely red hood, but a shame that you've gotten so thin." Little Red took a look at her granny and said, "What on earth did you do? I could swear that your eyes have completely changed size. Hey, Gran, are you sure that is you?" "Of course it's me, my sweet darling. The better to see you, my dear." "And your ears are so long. Something really seems wrong." "Oh, my girl, all the better to hear." "And those biceps, my gosh, they look massive. And your triceps and delts are immense." "The better for hugging," her grandma said, shrugging. "Dear Red, that's just plain common sense." "And those teeth, they look so much sharper." "Why, yes, all the better to chew." He jumped out of bed to gobble up Red, but she'd gone to ninja school too. I better get ready. She's ready now. I think she's ready to fight. She grappled and sideswiped and twisted and escaped from his clutches unscratched. She attempted a lock, but he managed to block. They appeared to be evenly matched. Just then, they both heard someone chopping. A woodsman? Red thought, but instead, it was Gran and her G. She'd come from Tai Chi. Don't you dare harm a hair on her head. I think he's outnumbered now. Now he's got to go against Little Red and Grandma. The wolf took a swing at that instant, but Red deftly dodged the attack. She got a good grip, threw him over her hip, and then the wolf wound up flat on his back. I'll skedaddle, the wolf said in anguish as he struggled back up on his feet. Just a second, you beast. You will not be released till you promise to give up red meat. Though his tummy still rumbled with hunger, the wolf faced his rival and vowed, Ninja Red, you have won. My meat days are done. Oh, Red Chan, said Gran, I'm so proud. Then Red and the wolf bowed politely, and Gran gave him half her peach pie. The wolf was a mess. He'd had way too much stress. I guess I'll give yoga a try. He enrolled at the Downward Dog Center, where his tension began to decrease. He studied with yogis, said no to meat hoagies, and felt at last truly at peace. There's the wolf now. The end. So I love this version of Little Red Riding Hood because at the end of the story, the wolf really does change. So in this story, Little Red did speak to a stranger, which we know is not the right thing to do. But also the grandmother had a different role in the story. She was a very strong character, just like Little Red. They both had ninja skills and had been trained, but the wolf did too. So they were pretty evenly matched. But when Grandma and Little Red were against the big bad wolf, he was outnumbered and definitely could no longer hang with either one of them. But they were able to convince him to change his ways. And at the end, his character completely changed from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. So I think that's why this is one of my favorite versions, because it's so cool. It has karate moves in there, but every character is different from the original version that I had heard. So I hope that you enjoyed this book as much as I did, and you heard some rhyming words, and you also enjoyed some of the karate moves that you saw and heard in this story. And I was very thankful that the big bad wolf ended up becoming very sweet by the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed tonight's bedtime story, and I can't wait to read to you again tomorrow. I miss and love you, my boys and girls. Sweet dreams.